Charleston or Savannah, so she had that sweet tidewater lilt in her voice. She had the infraction number wrong, though. I-6, you mean, he said, but gently. I-5 was improper backing. Both infractions, but when he'd been in patrol, that's where you started off, with a possible infraction. It hardly ever stayed there, but you had to have probable cause before you could make a stop. Otherwise, everything that flowed from the stop, drugs, guns, illegal transportation of underage gerbils across state lines, would get thrown out of court. How about you run those plates first? Let's see what we're getting into here. Karras swiveled the MDT display around on its base, punched in 407XZT, hit the search tab. The Suburban had steadied and was now doing the speed limit. Exactly the speed limit. Redding's unmarked was several cars back in heavy traffic. Maybe they'd been seen and maybe not, but something was going ping in Redding's cop brain. He didn't like big black SUVs with dark-tinted windows. Most cops felt exactly the same way. Big black boxes packed with explosive situations. A gust of wind blew a cloud of beach sand across all 4 lanes of A1A, and everybody's brake lights flared as the drivers reacted. Grains of sand were peppering the glass at his shoulder, and he could feel the car rocking. He looked east past the roofs of the beach houses that lined the coast, and there it was, heading their way, a white squall. Karras looked up from the computer screen. Comes back with a Gerald Jeffrey Walker, D.O.B. November 10, 1971. Address of 1922 Halls Ferry Road, Florissant, Missouri. No wants, no warrants. Redding started to back off, letting his ping fade. Not every black Suburban was full of... Now this, said Karras, giving him a puzzled look. It just popped up on the screen. A 1035? What's a 1035? Redding kept his eyes on that black Suburban. It had suddenly become much more interesting. That's the code for confidential information. What does it mean? You'll see in a moment, he said, letting the Suburban drift farther ahead, falling back out of the guy's rear view, if he was watching the cruiser at all. Which he sure as hell was, because everyone did. A cop car in your rear view was like a scorpion in your martini. People noticed. He heard the MDT chirp, and Karras read off the radio code. It says 1076? Redding was expecting that. It means switch radio channels, he said, leaning over to click the channel's controller to tactical and picking up the hand mic. Central, this is Jax 180. Come back. Jax 180, this is 6 Actual. 6 Actual was Mace Dixon. On that Suburban you just posted, St. Louis PD is asking for a 1017 on that. Can you give us your 20? Karras was getting a little bug-eyed, but Redding didn't have time for that right now. A 1017 code meant maintain surveillance, but do not stop the vehicle. Roger that, Central. Our 20 right now is southbound on A1A at Cedar Point Road. What's up, 6? Plates come back, no wants, no warrants. Roger that, Jax 180. Wait one. Silence on the radio, and outside the windshield the weather was building up fast, the way squalls do along this coast. The traffic had thinned out, people looking at the skies and running for cover. In this part of the north coast, the A1A ran right along the shoreline, the ocean maybe 100 yards away, booming and roaring. On the west side, sprawling residential blocks, a few gated but mostly not, and beyond them scrub forest, swamp and wetlands, and then the Intracoastal Waterway, the inland canal that ran all the way from the Chesapeake to the Florida Keys. The Suburban was speeding up, starting to pull away, which was okay with Redding. There was nowhere for it to go but south on the highway or turn off onto a side road, and they were all dead ends, either into the swamps to the west or turn east and drive into the ocean. What's going on, Sergeant Redding? Karras asked in a tight voice. Call me Jack, okay? Dispatch is asking us to monitor that truck, but not to spook them. St. Louis cops are following up for some reason we don't know yet. Redding could feel Karras's adrenaline rising. She had her hand on her sidearm, and her skin was getting a tad pink. Are we stopping it later?